Have you ever downsized a house or a bedroom closet and you just wonder, why have I been holding on to all of this stuff? Well, in today's episode, I'm talking about decluttering because by the time you listen to this, we will have completed closing of our new house, which I've shared recently has been the result of God's suddenly moments. Let's talk about decluttering our lives, our businesses, our hearts, our minds, and souls. You know, I've been talking about the closing of this new house. And today, as you listen to this podcast, was our closing day. But the preparation actually has been going on since the beginning of February. So let me relate this timeline to you very quickly. On January 25th, we went to see this house. On that same evening, we signed a contract. It was accepted and ratified. And so started the next steps in this sudden movement of the Lord. And I, as the organized planner of my marital relationship, knew that there were still some things in closets and in boxes that needed to go. You see, we downsized from a very large house in 2018 to a very small duplex. And then after 8 months in that duplex, we moved to the house on the Chesapeake Bay that we've been renting. And there were boxes that I just wasn't ready to get rid of when we moved in 2018. And then they've been stored here since we moved into this house in March of 2019. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I like to hold on to things. Now, I wouldn't say that I'm a quote unquote hoarder. I actually love to go through and clean things out, but there are mementos that I hold on to and different things that have taken up space and cluttered closets and drawers, etc. So this has been an incredible opportunity as we planned for this move to get rid of more stuff. And it got me thinking how often we hold on to things that the Lord has told us to let go of, and that clutters up the work that He's called us to do. It clutters up the way that we serve. It clutters up our hearts, our minds, our souls for walking out our mission in the marketplace. And you may look around at your office or the space that you're in right now and think, I don't have clutter. But I wonder if there are some things hidden that you continue to hold on to that are getting in the way of what the Lord has for you. Maybe it's doing business the way you've always done business. Maybe it's offering the services that you've always offered. Maybe it's holding on to the ideal client that you defined 4 or 5 years ago, and you know that it's time to expand that definition, but you just haven't been willing to let it go. And perhaps it's time to declutter those things in your business. So, a couple of scriptures that I have for you as we talked through this today. The first is Ecclesiastes 3:6. And you know, this section is all about there's a time for everything under the sun. And in verse 6, it says, there is a time to search and a time to count as lost, a time to keep and a time to throw away. So, when I decluttered in 2018 to move to a much smaller place, I did let go of many things, but we also had an unfinished basement in that duplex. And we bought these giant shelves because I had boxes and bins of things that I just was not ready to get rid of. Well, when the opportunity came to get this Bayside house in 2019, I started to get rid of some of those things. And here I thought I had decluttered everything. And yet here we are. I found that there were things that I continued to keep instead of throw away. And the same thing may happen in your business. There are offers that you no longer use. There are lead magnets that are cluttering up your storage drive on your laptop or maybe in the elusive cloud. And it's time for those to go. Why do we hold on to these things? Well, I believe that we hold on to these things because maybe we're a little bit afraid to let go of what worked so well in the past to step into what the Lord has next for us. And for me, this scripture really brings to light for me what are the things that I've searched for in my business that it's time to count as lost? What are opportunities that I've held on to and I followed up on and followed up on and followed up on with no answer that I haven't removed from my CRM system, right? Who have I continued to chase down because they requested to do business with me and then never got back to me? But I'm holding that in my prospect list and tracking it. And perhaps the very space that that's holding is a space meant for someone else. So I would encourage you to ask yourself right now, what do you continue to hold on to? What should be count as lost and yet you keep searching for? And what is it time to throw away? I recently came across this definition of spiritual clutter just randomly in a search that I was doing online, and it described spiritual clutter as a lack of peace and contentment and forgiveness. You see, holding on to past wrongs that we were not willing to forgive causes clutter. Holding on to our past success and our past accomplishments causes clutter. Holding on to being discontented with where our business is or even where the Lord seems to be taking us can get in the way. It can get in the way of our obedience. And here's the thing, friends. The Lord brought you to the work you do, to the business that you do for a kingdom purpose that, if I may say, is not about you and it's not about me. It's about those whom we will serve. But how are we cluttering that up with a lack of peace and contentment and forgiveness? What are we continuing to hold on to that the Lord has instructed us to get rid of? Another scripture that I came across as I was researching for this episode was in Luke 12:15. And it says, he then told them, this is Jesus speaking, watch out and be on guard against all greed, because one's life is not in the abundance of his possessions. So in John 10:10, Jesus says, I've come to give them life and life abundantly. And you know, the world wants to capture that word abundant and it wants to make it mean all kinds of other things outside of the abundant life that Jesus came to give us. What is this abundant life? It is a life of peace. It is a life of contentment. It is a life of forgiveness. It is a life of obedience and joy in that. And finding Him as our portion versus all of the ways that we could clutter our houses and clutter our walls and clutter our minds with titles and accolades and stuff, right? But he says here that our life is not in the abundance of possessions. Our life is not in the abundance of accomplishments and achievements. We've all read stories of the sports hero who was, you know, lauded in high school or college for their accomplishments. And now at middle age, he or she is sort of lost because they've held on to those achievements for so long that it's cluttered them and perhaps stopped them from moving forward as the Lord intended. And the same thing can happen in business. The same thing can happen in your work. I was having a conversation recently with someone who said, "Oh, it looks like you had this big corporate career and this big title and this big income. Do you still have that?" And I said, "No." Has my business reached the par of what I previously accomplished? In many ways, it has. But if I were only measuring my success based on what I had previously done, my previous paychecks and salary, my previous titles and roles, would that truly be honoring God in what He has for me in this season? Or would that be more clutter? Friends, we can easily allow the world's definitions of success and even how it would seek to define us by what we have and haven't done in our work, in our life. We can allow, and you've heard me say, I'm not a big fan of this phrase, big, hairy, audacious goals, to clutter our minds at what needs to get done today, or even keep us from seeing the impact that we've made on a single person. The Lord has positioned you and equipped you to do very specific work to serve His kingdom. That work may not look anything like you think it should, but there are people who will be served by your obedience that can't be served by others. So we can clutter our minds with what we used to do and how we used to operate and what's always worked to this point. We can clutter our sight with what we see on social media and what appears to be our competitors doing these incredibly great and impactful achievements, or or we can focus on Jesus and what He's given us to do. We can focus on where He wants you to go today. You can focus on how He defines and directs you and how you are to take discipline action in what He's given you to do. Or we can stay cluttered. My question for you today is, what is cluttering your obedience in your business right now? What is cluttering the big idea that the Lord wants you to run with, but you're holding back? What is cluttering your schedule? What is cluttering your calendar that's not leaving margin for the Lord and not even leaving margin for you to talk to Him throughout your day or even once a day in the morning? Where are you cluttered? And I encourage you to pray and ask Him to show you where you need to declutter so that you can move forward in His best, because His best is always best. And our good and our great are really just okay. I have been decluttering, and now I am going to be surrounded by boxes that need to be unpacked. And I might even do some more decluttering. But let us remember that there is a time to search and a time to count as lost and a time to keep and a time to throw away. What do you need to let go of that the Lord has been pressing upon you and saying it's time to let that go? I can't wait to hear what that is. I hope that you'll reach out to me and let me know. And listen, if this podcast brings you value, would you share it with a friend? And if you'd like to engage with me and experience more content that follows along the theme of redefining hustle and navigating success as a Christian woman, jump on my email list by downloading my 5-day audio devotional down at erinharrigan.com/devotional. That'll be in the show notes as well. Tell me what needs to be decluttered. Because here's the deal. The Lord made you ambitious, but He didn't make you for business as usual. And business as usual is holding on to the things and gathering more and more and more. And until we're together next time, I pray for and encourage you to tune out the world, tune into God's truth, and turn up focus and go declutter. I'll see you on the next episode.